Hello, everyone, and welcome back to RPG PhD. I'm Dr. Ben, and today we're going to be talking about the 2024 Player's Handbook for Dungeons and Dragons. There's a lot of new information out there, so we thought we would talk about it today and share some of my thoughts. So, let's get into it. So, if you're my age, you've seen these revisions before, these edition revisions that Dungeons and Dragons has done over and over and over again throughout the years. So, it's not really a surprise in any way. I would call this 5.5E, so it's not a completely new edition, so it's not 6th edition, but it's definitely parting from 5th and moving somewhere else. One of the design goals, it seems from the creators, at least stated anyway, is they want to make the game more accessible and they want to make the game easier for people to get into, especially for new players. So one of the things they have added is they have added a section in the Player's Handbook that sort of walks you through character creation step by steps and helps you more with the decision points. At least that's what the design is. And I think this is good. I think anytime you can add something that helps to get the players involved and to get the players into it more, I think that's a good thing all around. Similarly, apparently in the Dungeonmaster's guide, they're doing the same thing. They're showing Dungeon Masters how to build a campaign and what that looks like. They're giving a campaign world right in there. This is Greyhawk that's going to be part of the Dungeonmaster's guide. So it's going to give DMs a sort of a step-by-step process to creating campaigns, what that looks like, building scenarios. So I think that's also an excellent way of doing it because, believe it or not, in 50 years of Dungeons & Dragons history, we've never really had a Dungeon Master guide that sort of walked anyone through any of these things step by step. So I think that's good. We've got 16 backgrounds. We, I think, have somewhere around 75 feats and are almost 400 spells, a lot of which are new in all of those categories. So that's going to be kind of interesting. They're also adding a rules glossary, which I think is also a great idea. I know in the 2014 Player's Handbook, sometimes it was difficult to find what you were looking for. There were obscure rules here and there. They seem to have wanted to streamline that process, and they're wanting to put everything in the rules glossary. So we'll see how that works out for them. I think that's a good idea, obviously. I do like what Pathfinder 2e does when it puts the tabs on the edge of the page. They're not doing that, but again, a glossary with the rules in one place, I think that's a great idea. So we'll see how that plays out. It seems that all the classes have gotten either buffs or slight redesign, and all of the subclasses have also had some redesign work done to them as well, creating more decision points. And sometimes I think decision points can lead to paralysis in game and can slow things down. But again, that all remains to be seen. I'm not against complex systems or complex games, but at the same time, I also like things to move along at a nice pace. So I think anytime you can streamline some of that, that's a good thing. So again, we'll have to see. One of the things that they've added are origin feats. So first level characters are going to get a feat, I think, based on their background. So that gives them something. And these feats will be appropriate for someone at first level, so they'll be something relatively simple. And they're in the category by themselves, so that you're not just sort of choosing a feat, any feat. Origin feats, I think, are specifically designed for that first level experience. Thanks to Baldur's Gate, we now have the ability for players to take a potion as a bonus action, which was very popular in that system and a house rule in a lot of games. They have also added creature stat blocks to the Player's Handbook, especially those for mounts and familiars and other creatures that would be part of a character. So I think that's a good thing as well because it puts them there instead of having somebody go over to look in the monster manual. They put crafting rules also for potions and scrolls, so that's something that players will have access to. And of course, the more expanded creation rules for magic items and those sorts of things, that'll be in the DMG. Also, the DMG is adding bastions, so these strongholds, and you have a bastion turn. So it's sort of like a mini keep, almost harkening back to earlier editions of the game, where you can sort of have a stronghold that sort of is going to run itself. It's going to give particular benefits, and you're going to have this bastion turn that you take. One of the big things they're adding to give players, especially marshals, more tactical oomph in the game is a new system called Weapon Mastery. Now, anybody can get Weapon Mastery through feats if you're not granted it via your class. But basically, what Weapon Masteries do is if you have a mastery, it unlocks a particular property on a particular weapon. So all weapons in the games will now have masteries associated with them, and these do various things. So you might have a weapon that gives cleave, or gives vex, or graze. So graze, for example, is if you miss, you still do a little bit of damage, that sort of thing. So apparently this is going to add a lot of tactical options into what's there. Now, anytime you add choice points and tactical options, that's also potentially going to slow things down and create some decision paralysis. So I'm interested to see how this plays out actually in-game, to see if this adds more tactical options or if it's going to slow the game to a crawl. So again, we will see. So let's talk about backward compatibility. This new handbook will replace the old handbook for sure, and it seems like that if you've built characters from the 2014 handbook, you'll still be able to play with this handbook, but if you tried to go the other way, it's not going to work so well, I think, in terms of that. And that's normal. That often happens. It seems like what they were trying to do is to make sure that all the 5e adventures were still compatible, and you could do that. The good thing about backward compatibility is you don't have to throw out all your things that you have to get all new things, right? So that's good. I wonder if it constrained the design in a way that, I don't know, I think maybe they would have been freer in the design process if they didn't have that restraint. So again, I think we'll see when we get into it. One of the other things they've added apparently to the Dungeonmaster's Guide is a lore glossary. So, and I think that's a great thing because there is a lot of lore in D&D, and there are a lot of different campaign worlds and materials and just lots and lots of things that over the years sort of have existed. And, you know, if you've been playing a long time, you just sort of take for granted what some of these things are, what some of these materials might be. So, or what some of this lore might be, who some of these gods are. I think that's a good thing because I think that's going to help bring more people into the lore of D&D and the lore that surrounds it. I mean, obviously, as we are taking a look at this from a Dungeon Master's perspective, there's a lot of homebrew and home campaigns out there, and that's great, but there is a lot of really interesting D&D lore, and if this can make it more accessible, I think that's a good thing. There's also apparently 75 new monsters in the monster manual, which is good. This is something I was thinking about as well. We haven't really seen any monsters being play-tested yet that I'm aware of, and so a lot of the revamps that we're getting with the subclasses and the classes seem, at least on paper anyway, seem to be granting players a little bit more power, or at least more flexibility in a lot of their options. And flexibility often leads to power, and that's fine. But I know that one of the complaints about 5e in the past was the fact that, well, some of the monsters just, I don't know, aren't performing as well as they should. They don't feel as dangerous, maybe, as monsters in previous editions do. And so I'm curious to see if they've made sure that they have kept that power balance, or maybe even created some creatures that are a little tougher than you might normally think. Now, apparently they've tried to keep the challenge rating for all existing monsters the same. I think this is for compatibility reasons. But for me, I think players have gained a lot of power. I would like to see the monsters do as well. Now, for some DMs, this is not a problem at all. Most of the time, monsters last or live as long as I feel that they should in the scenario to make something interesting and fun for the players or for whatever we're trying to do. So I'm not sort of always locked into whatever's in that box, but there are people that play that way, and that's fine. And so I think for them, they like the monsters to work right out of the box, right? They want that monster. If they've got 4 people in a party and this monster is appropriate for those 4 people in a party, then they would like the challenge to be what it's supposed to be, at least within a certain range. So again, I hope they've addressed some of these issues, because I think some of the monsters in 5e were not as powerful as they could be. Lots of new artwork, and from what I understand, the artwork is incorporated into the design from the very beginning of the book. Instead of sort of building the book and then bringing in artists, the artists were part of the process all along. And this includes giving artwork for all of the different subclasses for all of the classes. So we'll actually get original artwork for all of those, and lots and lots of original art from what I understand throughout the book. So that's always great to see art that inspires and can help make a difference when we're sort of trying to get into the class fantasy or think about how to build a character, especially again for new players. Well, that does it for our video today. We've had a lot of buzz in the air with everything that Dungeons & Dragons is doing, releasing lots of videos and lots of new information about the upcoming release of the new books, especially for the 50th anniversary of Dungeons & Dragons. So tell me, are you excited about this? Are you disappointed in what you've heard? Let me know in the comments section below. Also, please, if you find this content useful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It is much appreciated. Thanks for watching. See you next time.